Hello, it's Mark Kelly here from What I Know Now. I'm delighted to welcome you to episode 3. In this episode, I interviewed Barry Wyse, the VP of Engineering at Dimension Data. Barry runs the cloud computing team within Dimension Data in Dublin. In today's episode, we'll discuss Barry's journey to becoming VP of Engineering, the different roles he's held in Ireland and abroad within startups, upstarts and large multinationals. We also speak about the future of technology, in particular cloud, choosing the right role that complements your skill sets, and what Barry knows now that he wished he knew back then. A lot more to come. Now sit back, relax and enjoy the show. So, welcome to What I Know Now. I'm delighted to have my first guest on the show. That's Barry Wyse. Barry is the VP of Engineering in Dimension Data. I've known Barry for, I think it's working out probably about seven years.
About that.
So 7 years. So Barry today is going to share his journey to becoming VP. He's also going to share the future of technology, cloud, and also his learns along the way as well. There'll be a variety of other topics covered today, so sit back, relax and enjoy the show. Barry, if I could start off and give me a bit of an overview about your journey from starting off in technology to where you are now.
Okay. So I guess way back from school I went to UCC and I was in the first class to do computer science in UCC.
Wow.
So this was back in, graduated in 1982.
That's a milestone.
So that was a very interesting time. It was completely new, so very exciting. Took a year out and travelled, then basically went and did a master's in computer science in UCD here in Dublin. And then basically got my first job in Cork in a company called Motorola Four-Phase, basically as a software developer working on Unix systems. And a year and a half into that, basically I got the opportunity to move to the States, to Silicon Valley for 6 years.
Wow.
So it was really exciting. So I spent 6 years there in a variety of startup companies, a lot of hardcore software development on Unix. Back then it was basically, the Unix variants were being converged onto System 5 Release 4, so did a lot of porting of that stuff onto the Sun Spark platform. Got married, had a couple of kids, and decided in 1992 that no, we wanted to come back to Ireland to raise the kids here. So came back here and I got a job at Lotus for a couple of years, then decided that I thought I wanted to move from being a software developer up the management path.
Yep.
So I went to Microsoft for a year, and basically lasted a year there. Right. And decided I want to go back to being a techie. Okay. So then went to this great startup company called Isocor.
Yeah. So
Isocor did messaging initially for telcos, but then internet messaging. So I spent 8 years there, and on a hands-on techie role initially, but ended up being VP of Engineering there, with responsibility for the team in Dublin and the team in the US and in Berlin. So that was great. It was quite a ride, quite intense. Isocor went public.
Yep.
So that was quite an intense time. And then basically they were bought by a company called Critical Path. And I spent 2 or 3 years after they were bought by Critical Path. It was, at the time I thought, okay, I need to take a step back. It was quite intense, a lot of travel, a lot of late hours and stuff.
Full on.
So I decided, no, I'm going to take a break and basically do something less stressful. So I went to work for AOL.
Okay.
Managing their data warehouse team, and that was definitely an easier role to take. And I stayed there for 3 years, and then I decided, no, I actually. Taking a step back isn't something that, maybe I needed it at the time, but it's not something that I want to do long term. Okay. So I got back into a more technical role and went to work for a company who were a services company for Magnet, the TV company. So we basically did services for those. So IPTV, a company called Industria, very interesting company. Their headquarters are actually in Reykjavik in Iceland. So I used to spend, a week, a month or so in Iceland.
Making the move to the States, that was a pretty big move.
It was, but I mean, this was back in the late 80s, and it was, I just happened to get an opportunity to, somebody I was in college with was working there. He was an American citizen, and basically he told his boss that there were some super engineers in Ireland that he should really look to hire somebody.
Wow.
I just happened to be in the country at the time. He arranged an interview, it went well. he sponsored me for a visa, and all of a sudden I was in the States in Silicon Valley in San Jose. So I spent 6 years there. It was great. I mean, it was very. I mean, Sun had just started. You know, it was a great time. Yeah.
What do you think your biggest learn was when you worked in the States for 6 years, or was there a few kind of common themes that you came back to Ireland with?
Yeah, I guess their attitude to taking risks is slightly different to ours. We're a lot more conservative.
Yeah.
So they're prepared to take risks, make mistakes, and fail.
So your most recent role now, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I've been here now for 6 years at Dimension Data. I was hired on to OpSource, which was a startup company that basically was in the cloud space. So their whole thing, I mean, I guess OpSource originally was a managed hosting company.
Yeah.
So the idea is if if IT is not your core competence, why are you hiring IT people? Why have you got a computer room and people pulling wires to collect your network? Why did you outsource the whole thing to us? So that's what the whole purpose of OpSource was. And they started getting into cloud, which is really virtualizing your IT infrastructure.
Yeah.
So they basically, there was a company in Ireland called WIKN who were doing billing for software as a service. OpSource partnered with them, liked the company, bought them, and then over time decided to make the team here their cloud team.
Yeah.
And that I joined at that stage. They had launched their public cloud offering. They basically had one data center in Virginia, and they were basically marketing and selling cloud services mostly in the US.
Yeah.
After being here for a year, company was bought by Dimension Data, and the focus changed. Dimension Data, I'd never heard of Dimension Data, but they're quite a large company, 25,000 people, about 30 years old. Originally started in Johannesburg in South Africa, and really they're an IT services company. They have done a lot of work with Cisco, so selling Cisco kit and then selling services on top of that.
Yeah.
But basically they were looking around at the time for they had a lot of big customers that they were trying to upsell.
Yeah.
And they were, cloud was in the hype, and they were talking about, how can we leverage this cloud technology? So they were looking for some cloud technology. OpSource at that time was about 10 years, or 8 to 10 years old, in terms of we're looking for a company with deep pockets so that we can take this cool technology and invest in it and basically bring it globally. And so they bought OpSource, and we became part of what was then called the Cloud Business Unit, which was the first division of Dimension Data that was organized globally. So it wasn't regionally focused. It was basically that our purpose was to build cloud technology that we could then we could have the other regional divisions of Dimension Data sell.
Yeah. If I kind of move on to the future of cloud, and obviously very, very successful company and that's very, very successful part of your business. Where do you see it going?
I guess we've had a change in strategy from the time we were OpSource to being Dimension Data.
Yeah.
Back in the OpSource days, we were going after public cloud. The 800-pound gorilla in the room was Amazon, and basically we were saying we can do it better than Amazon.
Hard to compete.
Very hard to compete.
Yeah.
But we were relatively successful. We had as a niche player.
Yeah.
Dimension Data were much more interested in what they were calling private cloud.
Yeah.
So they have large, huge multinationals, telco companies that they've basically done, technical services for years. They were saying we were really interested in this cloud technology, but we're not going to put, our critical applications up on a public cloud. We want basically our own data center with private cloud.
Yeah.
So the strategy at Dimension Data has changed a bit from back in the OpSource days of focusing on public cloud to now with Dimension Data, it's like we're private. We also have this thing called hosted private, where basically we will stand up your applications in a private cloud on our infrastructure.
Right.
That's dedicated to you.
Okay.
All the way to hybrid. Some companies want to say, well, I want to do my dev and QA in cloud, but then when I run in production, I want to run that in my own. So there's a variance of hybrid cloud as well.
Yeah.
So our strategy really is, no matter Mr. Customer, no matter where you are in your journey, we've got a solution for you.
Yeah.
So our cloud infrastructure is the same. unlike Amazon. It's basically, if you're running private cloud, you're running on, we've come up with this thing called the MCP, the Managed Cloud Platform, which really is a blueprint. So like it's a bill of materials, it's a bomb saying, okay, if you want to go off and build a cloud, then you go off and you buy all this kit and you stack and rack it and you cable it.
Yeah.
And then you have our software that we develop in Dublin, the cloud control software there in front of it to manage it all for you. And you can have small, medium, large versions of this, and basically they can be public or private. And all, the infrastructure is the same, the software is the same. You decide, Mr. Customer, what you want.
Just a lot more personal. They got different options depending on their usage. They can really take advantage of that. Yeah. And did that take a while for the team to get their head around that? Were they bought into that straight away? Or?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think the team here has been instrumental in helping to build out this infrastructure. We have an operations team, but some of this is quite technical, and basically the team here are kind of the experts. So we work with our team here has a sister team in Ashburn in Virginia. Yeah. So we work very closely with those guys to do the first few, and then basically we will train the operations team and say, okay, here now take this MCP blueprint, and here's a whole bunch of scripts and documentation, and now that you can go and build this out globally.
Do you see security as a big talking point of the coming years?
Big time, yeah. Security. I mean, big, absolutely. And actually, what Dimension Data has decided to do is because we're part of the NTT group, and in each of the divisions of that, there's Dimension Data, NTT Data, NTT Com. There's security initiatives going on. They've decided that it's so important for them as a company that they're taking those security teams and basically centralizing them into one entity security for the whole group. Right. Okay. So it's seen as being key.
Yeah. I was reading recently was that it's not a question of will you get hacked? It's when you get hacked, and what will your response be? Yeah. Which is kind of scary. Yeah. And I think I read some stats, something like 70% of companies don't acknowledge to the public when they've been hacked. Yeah.
See that's a huge selling point for cloud, because if you can, we've got a security team that basically does penetration testing on our new MCPs as we bring them up. So basically, we've got software that basically is on the periphery watching what's going on. Yeah. We have an anti-fraud team who basically knows somebody comes into our cloud and spins up a virtual machine and then starts hacking other machines, we shut them down straight away. Yeah. So all those things are hugely valuable in terms of sitting down in front of somebody who is concerned about security and saying, okay, well, you want to run this infrastructure internally and have this security headache yourself, or you want to have a trusted provider like us who can basically run all that for you.
When you look at the companies that you're with, how important do you think culture was to a successful company?
It's hugely important. I think it's assuming the givens are taken care of in terms of the technology stack that you're working with. That you're never going to take a Java head and have him work successfully in a .NET house, for example. Yeah. So assuming that you're going to work in a company that has the same technology stack as what you want to work in, culture is really what makes you stay or leave. Right. It's the kind of the atmosphere, the intangible atmosphere in terms of the unwritten guidelines or rules of how you operate. It's what make people enjoy their work. Yeah. And if it's wrong for you, then it's never going to work out. And you may put up with it for a while, but eventually you'll drift. Yeah. And you'll find someplace that's more suitable for you.
And what do you think are the kind of key attributes to having that kind of culture of excellence?
Well, I think you gotta. I don't think there's a single winning culture. I think you gotta cut your cloth to suit your measure. Yeah. So, for example, in a software development environment like this, I mean, what we're trying to, what the environment or culture we try to have is it's pretty open. We're pretty strict about who we hire. Yeah. But when we get them on board, we basically give them, we buddy them up. We give them, they climb the learning curve. Yeah. But then we pretty much let them, they're adults, so we basically give them the freedom to do what they need to do. We're there to support them. There's a safety net there basically if there needs to be, and we'll monitor what's going on. And sometimes it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And we'll notice and we deal with that. But it's kind of a very open, relaxed, collaborative environment. We use an agile methodology. So at the beginning of each of our sprints, our teams will sit down and work out what they're going to commit to.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the sprint, they'll demo that.
Yeah.
So basically, like if they're under pressure in the second week of the sprint, and they'll collaborate, they'll work together as a team to try and resolve that. There's not like a blame culture where somebody hasn't done stuff. If somebody's sick or if somebody can't get their commitments done, the rest of the team will rally behind them. Okay. So that's the kind of environment we want, and that works very well for us here in terms of it's relaxed. We don't mandate that you got to be here at 9. We have because we're agile and we like to have a lot of open collaboration. Yeah. And we have core hours between 10 and 4, but then we're pretty flexible around that. Okay. And that works for this environment. Okay. But if you had another environment, like for example, if you were running an intensive care unit, for example, that's that kind of culture isn't really what you want. You want to have much more strict handovers and protocols and stuff. So you got to cut your cloth to suit your measure. So for us, for a software development environment, I think the culture is open, friendly, collaborative, but we do note how things are going, and we basically try and improve all the time. Okay.
So, what would you say your biggest learns were this year or last couple of years that you take a step back and think, wow, I used to do it that way. This way is so much better. What have you had in those moments recently?
It's mostly to do with how you form teams. Okay. I guess I think that each of us has innate strengths, and obviously the flip side to that is then there's stuff that we're not so good at.
Some blind spots.
I think understanding your own capabilities, I think, is a key thing. Yeah. So, for example, I don't know if you've heard of the 9 team roles that Belbin defined, right? That basically there's the ideas guy. Before. He's called a plant. He's the guy who comes out. He's the creative guy with all the ideas. Yep. Then you have the coordinator, who basically is very good at basically figuring out how to do stuff. Yes. Yep. Then you have the resource investigator who can go off and do some research and come back with some good knowledge. Yeah. Then you have the there are 9 roles that are defined as kind of essentially required in any functional team. Yeah. Looking at those roles, and most people would have two or three of them that they're very, very good at. Yeah. For me, it's there's a role called implementer, which is basically figuring out how to get stuff done.
I've done something similar. It was on e-discovery, but it had those topics. Yeah.
And monitor evaluator, which is basically can see what's going on and can evaluate and make some decisions. Yeah. So that's where I would see that my strengths are. Right. I think a common mistake that people make when forming teams is to hire people like themselves. Right. Yeah. Because that's who you understand best.
Halo effect, natural bias. Yeah.
I understand how to get stuff done, so I'm going to gel with somebody else who's coming to say. What you have to do is you have to find where you're not so good. Like for example, I wouldn't be the most creative person in the world. Yeah. Right. I'm not the guy who's going to come up with the great new idea. Right. That's going to basically revolutionize the world. Right. Right. But I'm the guy who, if I paired with that person, I can figure out how to take it from an idea and actually get it implemented so they can make money out of it.
Okay, right.
So I think
it's so important.
Yeah. So I think to me that's the kind of big learning is like understanding. And I guess the other thing is when I was when you're younger or less experienced, you tend to undervalue the skills that you're good at. Yeah. And overvalue the ones you don't have because you think, oh my God, how could that's a wonderful idea that person's come up with. How come I can't do that?
Do you know, I think and that's so powerful. Yeah. I think I came to realization this year where I was like, you know what, I'm really good at this, and I'm just not good at this, so I'm just going to tell people now. And I feel so good for being vulnerable to say, listen, I can't do this. So by the way, you're better off telling other people. And it's like I let people in to say, I just can't do this, and I've no attention to detail on these aspects. Too much information, it's going to overwhelm me, so go and find someone else. And it feels so good. It's like this relief.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the bottom line is you're really good at things you enjoy doing, and you enjoy doing it really good at. And the converse of that is like, for example, if you're not, and one of these roles is called a completer finisher,
right?
Which is like dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
Right.
Some people are really into that, right? But you're not.
No, definitely
So
not.
when you have to do that, it's hard work.
And that's where the whole work-life balance, work-life balance comes in then, because like, I hate this aspect, or you're trying to follow up, where I'd be more the case of the ideas, creative, put them into practice, where I need someone to clean up some of the aspects that I haven't got done.
So if you were hiring for your team, right, then you want to find a completer finisher who will come along in your coattails, and you'll do the idea stuff, and then they'll get the rest of it done.
So in my management structure, I have one or two people that do that stuff, that it's so helpful because I can go and do other different aspects as well. So that's a really good. What did you call it? It's called the 9.
There's a guy called Belbin. Basically, it's like the roles that he defines in a team. They're essential, types of people you need in a functional team.
Right.
Yeah.
So the thing I did was e-discovery, and it's like 90 questions, and they go through all the questions, and it's kind of multiple choice, and you pick them. And then they give you an overview in detail about your personality, right? And then they give you blind spots that are true about you, but you're not aware of them.
Yeah.
So I got the information, and I said, I definitely agree with all this, but don't agree with any of that stuff. And they said, that's why it's a blind spot.
Yeah.
And if you speak to people about you, they're probably going to say that's the case. And I went back and spoke to my wife. Yeah, definitely. And I was like, ooh. And then you're consciously incompetent then to that case.
Yeah, exactly.
But you do know it, right? And now I kind of feel like, hey, this is what I got, my scores. Yeah. This is me. And
there's another, I don't know if you've heard of Myers-Briggs, where they do personality profiling as well. Yeah. They do all that. They break it up, and it's like, there's some people are more introvert than extrovert. Of course. So basically, like, I'm more introvert, so I like quiet time, where I think things through in my head, and that's basically where I get my energy from. Somebody else might be more introvert or extrovert, and they basically get energy from talking to people and understanding ideas.
Exactly.
So you take somebody who is like an extrovert, and you put them working in a lab, looking down a microscope, they're not really going to be happy. Whereas I'd probably be much happier there than standing up in front of a sales team trying to motivate them to sell.
100%.
So you gotta understand your strengths. And the flip side, your weaknesses, and then basically when you're looking to form your team and your culture, know your blind spots and hire into those.
And that's where the management becomes interesting, because you're then working with different individuals where you can't do this one size fits all rah speech. It's sit down one-on-one to go through that, because they're going to perceive that in a different way. That's brilliant. I asked this question to Jim the last time I was sitting down in the chair. If you had the opportunity to speak with your 18-year-old self,
right,
or your 80-year-old self, who would you speak with? So you have two options.
I think I'd speak with my 80-year-old self.
Okay.
Because I guess I know where my 18-year-old self has been. I probably could give him some advice in terms of like not to sweat it too much, but I think my 80-year-old self, I think, will be much more interesting, because I heard, I don't know where I heard it, but many years ago, somebody said to me once, when you get to your deathbed, right? You're going, what you got yourself, do you want to regret the things you did or the things you didn't do? So I think I would like to talk to my 80-year-old self and say, what do you regret not doing?
And there was a famous book that came out from a nurse, and she documented, I believe, 3 years of working with terminally ill patients. And the trends that came from it was they didn't spend enough time with their family. They felt work was so important that they missed important appointments with their friends, and they felt that they didn't give themselves enough get up and go, and don't fear the result, just give it a shot anyway. And the biggest one that I found interesting was they were very interested in what other people thought about them, so I held them back because they wanted to be consistent with what they've done for years, rather than being the new person or do something different. And that's what really hurt them, because they felt they lived a life that someone else expected them to live, than anyone else.
Yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting.
And when you get kids, sometimes you want to do the best for your family and do what's right, but sometimes it's a case of going, actually, this is what I really also want to do, and let's kind of go down that path and have that.
Yeah. And I think it's easier to take risks when it's just you.
Yeah, definitely.
But when there's other people, you're much more cautious. Now, I'm by nature a pretty analytical person, so I will look at the options and I weigh them up. Sometimes to the extent of sitting on the fence for maybe a bit too long. So I guess if I was to talk to my 18-year-old self, it would be saying, look, don't be afraid to take risks. Yeah. Just do it. And basically, if you make a mistake, whatever. Yeah. Because I mean, that's where you learn the most, right? It's from making mistakes. If we never made a mistake, we'd know far less, you know?
So if you were to offer any advice to graduates coming onto the market who haven't necessarily got that much experience, who want to get into technology, what would you say to them?
Kind of back to what I'd say to myself as well, don't be afraid to take risks. Okay. And if you fail, then that's fine. Pick yourself up, but you learn a lot from that. Yeah. For sure. Travel. Yeah. I say the same to my kids. Just get up and go. It'll just broaden your horizons so much. I just think you may not stay abroad, you know, like you may do like I did, come back after a few years, but it's definitely seeing how other cultures operate. It's a huge learning. So, you know, don't be afraid to make mistakes and you know, make sure you broaden your horizons. Also, maybe think a little bit about what type of, you know, back to this profiling thing again, where your strengths are. Yeah. And basically that will help you in terms of what kind of role you want to go into. Yeah. It might help you making a mistake in terms of the role you want to be in. Yeah. I mean, if you're an extrovert who likes talking to people, then you probably don't want to be stuck in a code base all day. Yeah, right?
Do you know, I can relate to that. I worked in Brown Thomas for 4.5 years, and I put myself through college and my master's there, and I absolutely loved it. I did really well there. And then I went into work in a German low-cost retailer, just the W2, as a senior role there. And I only lasted around 6 months. To talk about a role that I was just not suited for. But I tried so hard to make it work that it just wasn't though. I was so, for 8 weeks, 9 weeks after, I was so disappointed that I failed in that. But I knew it wasn't for me though. But I was so upset that I felt that I was being successful throughout what I'd done before, to then not to be successful at that. But what that did do is it rubber stamped what I'll never do or want to do. As well. And
so for example, if you had stayed there, right, you know, what would have happened? You probably would have ended up demotivated. You might still be in that role, hating your life.
Trust me, they were not going to let me pass 6 more months. It was better for them.
So I'm not saying making mistakes is enjoyable. It's not, you had 8 weeks of hell, but you learned a lot from it, right?
I did. I learned more from that experience. I learned so much. And I still shop in that store because it's a great store and it's a great place, but it's just
not for you,
not for me, right? So I think that's good. When things aren't going well, and you've got so many different time zones and you've got so many different projects going on at any time, how do you keep going? How do you kind of get over those times where maybe you don't want to get out of bed in the morning time because you've got a list full of things that you need to kind of do or achieve or solve or implement?
Well, I mean, we all have our ups and downs, right? But I mean, in terms of getting out of bed in the morning, it's like the key thing for me is, will it make a difference?
Will it make a difference?
In other words, like if I don't, will stuff not happen? If I do, will make stuff happen? That's what kind of motivates me. It's like, am I adding value? I think if any of us, if we were to wake in the morning and thought, well, it doesn't really matter whether I go into work or not today, nothing else, I'm going to achieve nothing. It's very, very hard to get out of bed then, right? Unless you really have to get the paycheck. In which case, like, you know, you're probably in the wrong role and you're probably not going to last there long. So I think for me, it's like, so as long as it can be stressful, it can seem never ending. But as long as you think, well, it's got to be done, because if I don't do this, then something's not going to happen, or something, you know, won't work.
So have you got like a routine? For me, I've got like a morning ritual that I just absolutely swear by. I've done it now for the last year or so, and that is, I get up in the morning, so 2 young kids, so I have to get up early. So I get up in the morning and I think about 10 positive things that happened the day before I lie down, or sit down and think about 10 positive things that did the day before, which is actually a little bit challenging at the start because your memory isn't that great of what actually was positive that happened the day before. Then I think about 10 things that I'm grateful for, that I actually think, hey, I'm really grateful for these things in my life, such as family, friends, having a good job, or just being healthy, right?
A nice car, whatever,
being healthy, or even just anything like that. And then 5 things that I strive, that I'd like to bring into my life as well, or I'd like to do. And I find that doing that, and I write a positive journal where I write down 3 positive things that happened the day before. And I find by doing things like that, I set myself up for a positive outlook, right? And I've been keeping the positive journal for over 3 years. I've got over 3,000 entries now. I wrote a blog about it there. And I've been doing the sitting down, thinking about the 10 positive things and the 10 things I'm grateful for and the 5 aspirations that I have in my life in the future since January. But I find out when I add a little bit of exercise to that in the morning, cycling to work, that it gets me kind of set up in the morning. So much to the point now that if I didn't do it, I don't know what kind of day I'd have, right?
So good. You're almost afraid not to do it.
I even going to bed now, I write quick 2 or 3 things that were positive, because by celebrating the micro wins, I was really starting to go, these things do make a difference. And I went back over the 3 years, 2 weeks ago, and I started to spot some of the trends.
Right.
So when my son was found out the news that he was a baby on the way, to the little kicks, and I'm kind of writing down. I found that very powerful. But exercise for me is very important. Like even cycling or doing 15 minutes pull-ups or whatever, that gets me out of the overwhelmed stage. Have you got?
something? Exercise is good. A good workout in the gym, definitely. In the morning, preferably. It's kind of hard to get up, but when you're there, it's great. And when you get into work, you feel great. I'm maybe not as disciplined as you in terms of recording stuff. But what I do in terms of planning today, I still use pen and paper.
Right, okay.
So you see my book here,
yes.
right? It's basically, and what I do is here's the things I need to get done tomorrow. And I fill it in before I leave work. In the morning I come in and I prioritize it. And I've got this kind of special kind of coding that basically says, okay, I'm going to have to push that till tomorrow, or I'm going to have. And what I find then is if I'm pushing stuff to tomorrow 3 days in a row, it's like, well, why am I doing that? Is it because I don't want to do it?
Okay.
Is it because it's hard work and my skill isn't in that area and maybe somebody can help me with that? Or is it that it's not important enough? So I basically have a kind of a longer term backlog that I just say, well, it's not getting done on a day-to-day basis, so let me put it on my longer term backlog that I may or may never get to.
Have you read The One Thing?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so I put on my blog several books to read that I really believe in, but I think you would like The One Thing. And it pretty much says that you probably do one thing in your job that adds the most value, right? And we can sometimes get sidetracked on doing other things that you think are important, but aren't. So if you come in and you just focus on time blocking, just doing that one thing particularly well, everything else will just work itself out. And we naturally don't want to do those aspects that keep getting on the other list, but they might be important, but you found yourself on a journey of doing stuff to please other people that are relevant. And in this book, it really simplifies it, right?
So stay focused on what you're good at.
Focus, stay what you're good at. Hiding just to do that task. And if you download Audible, which is an Amazon product, so I don't know if you want to do it, but
that's fine.
If you download Audible, you get your free book free, and that was the one I did. I found it so good, I stayed a customer. But I think that would be quite good, especially if you do lists, because it really picks into that.
I did work for one CEO once, who, after 3 days, if something was sitting on his desk after 3 days, he binned it.
Right.
And his attitude was, if it's important, it'll come back. Right? So it's been there for 3 days, I have done nothing about it. I'm doing nothing about it now. I'm consciously deciding to put it away and never look at it again until it comes back and it's more important.
Do you know what he also says? He says that email is other people's agenda, so just don't bother with it.
It's a very bad habit. It's a very bad habit.
because I spent the first 4 or 5 years of my career, first thing in the morning, respond to email.
Yeah.
But what it says is, don't do that. Set out everything you need to do, go and do that, and then respond in certain allocated time. Because if
it's a discipline thing you need to do. And I think I haven't cracked it yet, to be honest with you, because when I'm done now, I'm going to go back to my desk and there's going to be an email there, and chances are if it's easy, I'll answer it.
Right.
I won't evaluate, is it more important than what I've written down that I need to go do today?
And what I heard also is, if you can do it in 2 minutes, respond. If you can't, do it at a different time, which can be hard, right?
So I think, I've heard that, like, first thing in the morning, lunchtime, and before you leave, clear your email, but then have blocks of time where you just don't look at your email.
Yeah, so I'll send you on that, the details. The one thing. My last question, if you look at your life to date, what do you know now that you wish you knew back then?
I think what we talked about earlier in terms of like understanding what your own strengths and weaknesses are, and basically valuing your strengths, and basically not beating yourself up about your weaknesses, because you can learn a certain thing, but like, you know, your own, and by that I mean your innate abilities, like what you're good at, what you enjoy doing, that's what you need to work at, because it's not work. You know, if you're doing stuff that you really like to do, then it's not work for you. You don't expend huge energy on it. If you're doing stuff you don't like or you're not good at, you'll expend huge energy and probably will be mediocre.
Okay.
You know. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much for your time today, Barry. Absolutely pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to thank you, the listeners, for joining myself and Barry today. Hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did. The show notes for the episode can be found on www.wikn.co. I'd love to hear your honest feedback about the show, as this is valuable information that will help me improve the podcast. The feedback so far has really helped me introduce new ideas that enhance the listening experience of others. I'd love to hear your ideas on other topics, guests on the show, and so on. Now, the most important question, what action are you going to take after listening today? Drop me a line and let me know. For now, take care and see you soon. Bye.